This is Transcend with Nat, where we are awakening to the spiritual heart, sharing stories and awarenesses along the path of transcendence. Hi, and welcome to Transcend with Nat. This is Nat. I am your host. Today, we are going to be discussing money, especially as related to the spiritual journey, the spiritual path, and as you start moving on a more conscious level, how our limitations around money, our judgments, our cultural views of money start coming into play in a different way. First, I want to let you know that I have started doing these online light gatherings. Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, that's East Coast time, New York, currently Puerto Rico time, 8 p.m., which translates to 5 p.m. in Los Angeles, 11 a.m. the next day in Sydney, Australia. And sorry, my friends in England, but it's midnight your time. I'd still love to see you, but that's the timing that seems to work the best currently. And it's on Tuesday evenings. It's a light gathering. We'll do a light meditation. We'll call on the light. There'll be contributions and ways in which you can integrate the light more into your life with different focuses of the light. And letting go is a big part of this process, letting go of the burdens, the difficulties, the challenges, and the things that you could just use a little bit more of that light energy, or a lot more of that light energy in your life and in the lives of those you care about and in the world. So if you'd like to join those gatherings, you can do that online through my website, transcend.online, and keep up to date on the Tuesday evening light gatherings. So I look forward to seeing you there. Those are online through Zoom, and you can sign up for that on my website, transcend.online. So today we're going to discuss money, and we're going to discuss money related to being on a conscious spiritual path. And we're going to look at how we may be creating limitations and limiting blocks that come up, especially when you start moving into the spiritual awareness, different misunderstandings we may have. To do that, I am going to be using my latest book that I would love if you supported the work that I'm doing by buying this book and also using this book so that it can touch you into greater ways in practically using the spiritual teachings in the spiritual heart and connecting into that more in your life. So there's a lot of practical tools and stories of my time with John Roger, my spiritual teacher, of my experiences since then, my experiences here in Puerto Rico in the process of learning to surf, and just in life in general. And it's called Transcending the Practice of Spiritual Living, Volume 2. And that is available on Amazon by me, Nathaniel Sherritt. And I am going to be using Chapter 9 on money and spirit. And I'm just going to start by reading a little excerpt from that chapter. So what's the way out? The first step is to forgive your judgments and recognize your limiting beliefs. Forgiveness is the key to letting go. You can say forgiveness statements such as, I forgive myself for judging that being poor is more virtuous. I forgive myself for judging that money is evil and those who have money are corrupt. I forgive myself for thinking I'm better than them, and so on. As you let go of judgments, you start to recognize that money is neither good nor bad, any more than a hammer is good or bad. It's just a tool to use, an essential tool in modern life, a tool to be very grateful for. How this chapter came about is that I was looking at a question from someone who was rather disturbed that there was a prominent spiritual teacher out there who was making money on their spiritual work. And part of that view is like somehow it's okay for bankers and engineers and employees, people who do dry cleaning, people who are psychologists. All these people are okay to make money, but when you get into the spiritual realms and the people who are doing spiritual work, sometimes there's belief systems that we have in place that it's not okay for them to make money. And that really reflects a deeper belief about money itself. And one of the things that you can start to look at is how, as you are awakening to the more refined things that are not of this world, that are not materially based, it's easy to start judging money as bad and evil. And there is even a tradition that this idea, the root of all evil is money. I take a different perspective. Definitely money, and the more money you have, gives you options. And it's a reflection of consciousness. John Roger, JR, my teacher, my spiritual teacher who taught me so much, taught me everything. I lived and worked with him for 17 years. He used to say that money is the great mirror of consciousness. In fact, he has a whole packet originally of tapes and then CDs and now digitally about that very subject. Money is the great mirror of consciousness. And as you start to look at what is money and how does it function, you realize it really is an amazing mirror of consciousness. Collectively, you can see where people's priorities are, how they're feeling, their mood, just as a collective group by how people are spending money or saving money or how the flow of money is going. It can become a reflection of the greater consciousness of the people who are involved in whatever that market is. And in our personal lives, money is also a great reflection of our own consciousness. It can reflect both the virtuous parts of ourselves and the parts of ourselves that are missing the mark, the parts of ourselves that are out of alignment, that are corrupt, that we all have, these human aspects, this human nature that gets brought forward and reflected by money. And therefore, the greater the money you have, as you get more and more wealthy, the greater that the money can magnify and reflect, and you can see all these different ways in which your own corruption and your own virtue is presented through how you use and spend your money. There's often a viewpoint within spiritual communities and even within communities that aren't spiritual towards those who are, that somehow money is bad, that the rich are evil, that the rich are corrupt, and that we need to somehow take them down or make people less rich. I think this is an error of approach. I think the idea is to make more people rich, to make as many of us rich. I want my friends, my family, those who listen to this podcast, those who are involved in the teachings that my teacher brought forward, that I am bringing forward, that I am sharing with you from my own spiritual experiences, my own awareness of the Spirit. I want the people who are involved in my life, in my community, to have greater and greater wealth and greater abundance. And that doesn't always just translate to money. In fact, it never just translates to money. But money is part of that wealth. It's a reflection. It's a store of value. It's energy. If you really want to look at it, money is energy. And it's a way that we represent that energy. And so I want the people, I would love to see the people have greater and greater success, greater and greater abundance in their life, and to be able to truly experience and enjoy and bring forward greater goodness into the world through their becoming more and more rich and wealthy and prosperous and abundant. And that if done in the right consciousness, you bring others with you on that path of greater and greater abundance. I think that that is something that is really positive, especially for people who are working in a conscious way towards the spiritual, towards God, towards having their life more in line. I mean, who do you really want to have the greatest wealth? Do you want people who have a consciousness that is of a lower frequency? Or would you think that those who have greater awareness, greater compassion, greater understanding of ourselves, of themselves, those people may do good things with their wealth? They may also have their corruptions amplified. And so that's something that no one is exempt from. So as we move more on a spiritual path, you can become aware of the limitations and the limiting beliefs you have, such as that spiritual people shouldn't be wealthy, or it's bad to have money, or the poor are more virtuous than the rich, the poor are better people than the rich. These kind of cultural ideas, religious ideas, things that have been passed down, things that we have carried over from our previous lifetimes, from passed down through generational, how our family looks at money, how our family relates to money, it all becomes a reflection of that consciousness, and it reflects our judgments to ourselves, and to our limitations to ourselves. It reflects all of these things. So again, what is the way out? Once you start moving up in consciousness, money also becomes a tool for greater spiritual awareness and progression. And just because you let go of your judgments of it, just because you have an expanded consciousness, doesn't mean you're going to have all of a sudden more money. It's not that as you expand your consciousness, as you let go of your judgments towards money and judgments about wealth, that somehow that's reflected in your bank account. Because then we could say, oh, well, then the people who have a bigger bank account just have less judgments. That's not true at all. It just becomes another tool, another reflection of our consciousness and the areas that we can work on to bring into greater alignment. And that's called integrity, which John Rogers said is going with the truth as you know it, as a heartfelt response with care and consideration for others. That's integrity. So going with the truth as you know it, the more you align with that, with your money, with your actions, and the more you align your spending, your habits with and towards that spiritual focus and intention that you have, the more you bring even that lower vibrational frequencies into a higher place. So as you're moving up in consciousness, you start to use money also as a reflection, as a way to see where your judgments are, to free your consciousness of those through the awareness of them, through the forgiveness of them, through the letting them go into the light, bringing light more into that process of money. I'm also going to read again another excerpt from this book of mine, Transcending the Practice of Spiritual Living, Volume 2. That's by me, Nathaniel Sherritt, and that is available on Amazon. Your business is choosing where you focus your own energy. That includes your money. When you find someone who shows you the way towards your own awakening, you get to decide if that is worth your energy, including your time, your service, and your money. In giving to the source of your spiritual teachings, you are giving to that which for you represents in this world the originator of all energy, including money. So again, as you're doing this spiritual thing, as you're going and being involved in spiritual retreats and with spiritual people, it's really up to you. Where are you putting your energy? Where are you putting your focus? How is that reflected back to you? And there's another thing I want to address, which I tell this story. So I'm going to use this book again as Transcending the Practice of Spiritual Living, Volume 2. There's another story about money that I want to bring to your attention because it directly relates to what we were talking about before on how it works when you're spending money on spiritual things and spiritual people who are charging for their services. And this story is about my good friend Polly. And Polly, when my teacher started out in the 60s, they were both teachers at the same high school. And she and JR became very close, and she helped him get the spiritual organization, get the spiritual work off the ground. She did a lot of the support work to make it happen. Like, she was a critical and an amazing part of that early process before all the organizations, before there was anything. When they were just going, she would drive him to a seminar he might be doing, or he would be doing light studies and she would be transcribing a seminar he did and putting it out into written materials. So there came a point where JR told her that it would be good for her to do a light study. Now, a light study is something that JR did where he would read your karma, he would read your life lessons that you were here to do, he would tell you about body-born conditions, he would give you a light study. And it was a one-on-one thing that got recorded, and a lot of people in those early days would get that. And he did the light study on Polly, and then he had her pay for it, which she was kind of not shocked, but felt kind of weird about, because I mean, she was okay with it, but they were so close and they're doing so much together. So she wrote him the check and he put it in his pocket. And later on, he gave it back to her. He didn't deposit it. He just told her that it was important for her at that time to pay for it because people value what they pay for. And there had to be that exchange so that she could get the value from the light study. And then he gave it back to her. But the point is that that's how people work. That's how we work. We value what we pay for. And so there are times where it's actually important for you to pay for that service so that there's certain aspects of you that will take it more valuable if you pay for it. So that's just another way to look at money and spiritual things. You come across those judgments. So that's what I wanted to give you, just another view of how money can be looked at from a spiritual perspective when you start moving on the spiritual path. Remember to go to my website, transcend.online, if you're interested in doing that light gathering. Also, I do the spiritual life review, that if you're interested in that, we look at your life in that container of light and look at anything that is present that comes forward. We start out that process with a recording of me calling in the light. It's a light meditation, tapping into what the Spirit has for us in that session. That gets recorded and given to you at the end. And then we go through the process of the session, looking at the various aspects of your life in the light from the higher perspective, bringing greater awareness and an opportunity to really just look at it from different ways, have it reflected back to you in the light so that you can find those answers and see things in a different way, in a different light, so to speak. So if you're interested in that, that's also my website, transcend.online, along with the events coming up. I am working on a retreat, so keep your ears tuned to that. A retreat here in Puerto Rico, where I live, that's going to involve some ocean time, that's going to involve days of working on letting go of those limiting beliefs, those blocks, those emotional disturbances, and those emotional hurts, and coming back into that loving essence of grace and ease in greater ways in your life. It's going to be pretty awesome, but let me hold off. I'm not going to get to that quite yet because that's still in process of being created and the dates are being worked out. So that's going to be something that's going to be fun. All of this is going to be available on my website, transcend.online. And you can also sign up for the weekly newsletter, Transcend with Nat, same name as this podcast, which comes out every week on Monday. It gets delivered to your email. If you sign up, you can sign up on transcend.online. And that's what I'm up to these days. God bless all of you. Until next time, have a wonderful, light-filled life.
'Cause I'm free. Just forgive yourself. Come on, let it be. 'Cause I'm free.